Welcome to this week's work. In previous weeks, we have looked at different plate boundaries and the tectonic hazards at plate boundaries. Today, we're going to look at an example of an earthquake. For today's lesson, I suggest you have some lined paper and a pen. And I suggest you also have the table that was uploaded on Show My Homework open so that you can add to it. It doesn't have to be printed out. It can just be open on your computer or your phone. First of all, we need to see where we are focusing on today. So we're going to look at Japan, which is a high-income country located in Asia. Japan has very good education. This is shown by the fact its adult literacy rate is 99%. It also has great healthcare. The average person lives for over 84 years. This is the second highest life expectancy in the world, behind Hong Kong. Using the maps on the screen, the sentence starters, and the key words, you need to write 5 sentences about Japan on your sheet. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do that. So write those sentences now. You have 1 minute remaining. Right, let's see how we got on with those sentences. So, Japan is a high-income country and it is located in Asia. The capital city of Japan is Tokyo. Hopefully you saw on this map in the bottom right that Tokyo had the red star next to it, so that means it's the capital city. To the east of Japan is the Pacific Ocean. Japan is an island. Hopefully you can see it's completely surrounded by water. It's actually made up of more than one island. We'll come on to that in a moment. And finally, near to Japan is South Korea. You can see just to the west of Japan, here we have South Korea. Today, we're going to focus on a specific earthquake from 2018. Just to remind you, you are going to need to complete this sheet and upload it to Show My Homework. So to make it easier, you might want to be working on it as we go. So, first things first, what happened? Well, we're going to watch this video and we're going to listen and see what exactly happened in Japan in 2018.
Japan is rushing to find and rescue survivors this morning after being hit by another natural disaster. That's the moment people on the island of Hokkaido were jolted from their beds by the second natural disaster to hit Japan in as many days. This time, a deadly 6.7 quake. It has killed at least 7 people. Here are some more recent images of the aftermath. Dozens of people are still unaccounted for. Power was knocked out right across the island, and between cracked roads and canceled flights, transportation in the region has been crippled. John Van Duzen is in Tokyo with the latest.
The focus right now really is on the search and rescue operation. 25,000 personnel have been mobilized to help out with that. And the pictures coming in really are just devastating. There's been heavy damage just across the island, a place that's bigger than the size of New Brunswick. You see hills that were once full of trees completely wiped away, and the trees smothering the houses below. This quake happened just after 3 a.m., so you can imagine people asleep at that time. One woman saying that when she got up from the earthquake, she tried to get to her door, but the ground just kept shaking. Another elderly man told Japanese media that he saw mud coming into his house, thinking that his whole house would be crushed. And you know, there's roads that have been buckled, water pipes that have burst, and major transportation disruptions. Trains are down, the island's major airport is shut down. At one point, hospitals were turning away patients from the emergency rooms because they're on backup supply. And there was also some concern about the island's only nuclear power plant. When the power went out, its backup generators kicked in, diesel backup generators. The plant itself has been offline since 2012 following the major tsunami and earthquake that resulted in a meltdown at the Fukushima nuclear power plant. Officials there say there's at least a 20-day supply of fuel, and they're not too worried about any fallout from that. But the focus right now really on that search and rescue effort, and evacuation centers have been set up, and several aftershocks are still happening across the island.
It's John Van Duzen in Tokyo today. Japan is...
So hopefully from that video you got a bit of an understanding what happened. At 3:08 in the morning on Thursday the 6th of September 2018, an earthquake took place on the island of Hokkaido in northern Japan. You can see Hokkaido is shown here in the red, so it's one of the islands of Japan. The epicenter was near the town of Tomokoyo, which has a population of almost 200,000 people. Just for your reference, Brent has about 300,000. The epicenter, which is shown by this gold star, was about 60 kilometers, or a 1-hour drive, away from a city called Sapporo, which has a population of about 2 million people, which is about 1/3 the size of London. The focus of the earthquake was about 35 kilometers underground. This is very close to the Earth's surface for an earthquake, so it caused more damage as a result. On the screen is some of what I've just said to you. I suggest you pause the video and make a note in the top left box of your sheet titled Location of Earthquake. Hopefully your sheet is looking something like that now. So we're going to find out now quickly why this happened in Japan. So the earthquake took place in an area of seismic activity. This means that there are many movements taking place in the mantle. At this location, there have been earthquakes in 1910, 1974, 1981, 1982, and the year 2000. The earthquakes took place up here near what we call the Hidaka collision zone. As you can hopefully see, it's not actually on a plate boundary, but we have got the Eurasian plate, the Philippine Sea plate, and the Pacific plates. There are many plate boundaries near where this earthquake took place. Again, here is some of the key information. I suggest you pause the video to make a note in the top right box of your sheet that is titled Causes of the Earthquake. Hopefully your sheet looks like this now. So when we look at the effects of an earthquake, we need to look at two types of effects. Firstly, primary effects. These are impacts that are caused directly by the earthquake. For example, deaths. We also have secondary effects. These are impacts caused indirectly by the earthquake and often come as a result of primary effects. For example, losing your internet access because the electricity has gone because of the earthquake. Some of the primary effects of this earthquake are 41 deaths, 691 people were injured, almost 3 million people lost electricity, 4,500 homes were damaged, and 13,111 people were evacuated from the region. On the screen now, you can see the statistics I've just read out. Pause the video and complete the primary effects box on the left-hand side of your sheet now. Some of the secondary effects of the earthquake are as follows. Many people lost produce, for example, milk and vegetables that were stored in fridges because they lost their electricity, the food went bad. This was worth almost £10 million worth of food was lost. Tourism was lost for the rest of that year. Tourists did not want to visit this region as it was not safe. This meant that the region lost out on about £28 million worth of money in that year. And finally, we have something called landslides, which is when the land and earth has been unsettled by the earthquake. We're going to quickly watch a video here to tell us a bit more about the landslides.
この厚真町、至る所で土砂崩れが発生しています。崩れてきた土砂で建物が押しつぶされている箇所が何箇所もあります。ない状態となっています。建物も多くが倒壊しています。ヘリコプターが見えます。
Right now, pause the video and complete the secondary effects box on your table now. Hopefully, your table is looking something like mine. It doesn't have to be word for word, but it will look something like this with those 4 boxes completed. Like when we look at the effects of an earthquake, when we look at responses, so how people respond to the earthquake, there are 2 types of responses we need to look at. Firstly, immediate responses. These are responses that happen in the first few days and weeks after the earthquake. For example, evacuating people so that they're not at risk of the earthquake or the damage it causes. We also have more longer term responses, and these are what takes place in the months and even years after the earthquake. For example, rebuilding buildings that have been damaged. As the earthquake took place in 2018, some of the long-term responses are still taking place now. Some of the immediate responses to the earthquake were as follows. Electricity was restored to people, or to 99% of people, within 2 days of the earthquake. This meant that people were able to communicate better and let family and friends know they were safe. The Japanese government sent 25,000 members of the army on the day of the earthquake to help people. This was in helping find people, but also helping evacuate people and just making sure they could keep people safe. Within 2 minutes of the earthquake, the government had set up a group of people to prevent further deaths. This group decided what would be done next, for example, evacuating the people. Speaking of which, 13,111 people were evacuated. That is an immediate response. On the screen are some of those responses I've just said to you now. I suggest you pause the video and make a note in your table that says immediate responses. It's the box in the bottom left corner. Some of the longer term responses that have taken place after the earthquake are as follows. £4 million was given by the Japanese government to help the recovery. This was spent on building roads, building buildings, providing food and water for those who weren't able to get it. Additionally, the government has put in place more technology to monitor the area. So in future, if there is signs on the technology an earthquake might be coming, they can evacuate people in advance, and this will reduce deaths and will prevent people losing their lives. Japan is lucky because it is a high income country. They can afford the best technology going, so hopefully they can save as many lives as possible. Here are those longer term responses I just spoke to you about. Same again, pause the video, complete your table. There should be one box left, the bottom right box. Complete that now. Hopefully your table is now completed and looks something like mine. Well done for completing this week's work and learning about the Japanese earthquake. There are hundreds more videos on YouTube if you are interested, so feel free to go and search for it. This was the Japan 2018 earthquake. Make sure you save your table, or if you've written it by hand, make sure you keep it, and take a photo or submit it on to Show My Homework. Also, don't forget there is also the quiz on Show My Homework for you to be completing.